The first time he walked into the coffee shop was on a rainy Tuesday in November, shoulders hunched and eyes lost, as if searching for something he had forgotten years ago. His old wool coat was dripping wet, and no one seemed to notice his presence, except for her. Isla, with her hair tied up in a messy bun and a coffee-stained apron, dropped the dish towel on the counter and greeted him with a smile, the kind that feels like opening a window to let the sunshine in. "Good morning, sir. Cappuccino or loneliness with sugar?" He didn't laugh, nor did he reply. He simply took off his wet hat and sat at the table in the corner by the window. It was the same table he used to sit at with his wife many years ago, on that same street, only in a different coffee shop, one that no longer existed. The place had changed, the people had changed, but that corner of London still held a piece of him. Isla didn't know that. She only knew that the man had eyes too sad for the size of the heart he must carry in his chest. His name was Arthur, 62 years old, widowed for 4, a retired professor, father to a distant son, and a voracious reader of classic novels. He had the habit of walking every day to the bookstore down the street, but that morning he had changed his path on a whim, or perhaps fate. Isla, on the other hand, was 26, shared a flat with 2 college roommates, and dreamed of one day opening her own coffee shop with exposed brick walls and shelves full of books. The following week, Arthur came back, and then he came back again. Always at the same time, always to the same table, always served by her. Isla started memorizing his orders, his mood, even the way he folded the napkin into 4 precise parts before leaving. There was something poetic in that quiet routine, something that slipped through words and lived only in small gestures. She never asked why he came, and he never explained. Their worlds crossed paths between cups of coffee and discreet glances, until one day, with blue skies and golden leaves scattered on the sidewalk, Arthur forgot a book on the table, an old copy of 100 Years of Solitude with a scribbled dedication on the inside cover. Isla flipped through the volume and read the words that seemed written with longing, "For you who still believes in new beginnings." The next morning, Isla returned the book with a note inside, "I believe too." Arthur read it, and this time he smiled. It was a short, shy smile, almost hidden beneath his unshaven beard, but she saw it. And for some reason, it made her feel that the day would be better, that maybe every day from then on would hold something more, a spark, a reason, a presence. That's when the friendship began. No rush, no promises, one gesture at a time. Isla started setting aside his favorite lemon muffins, and Arthur began bringing books to lend her, with post-its marking special pages. She read every recommendation with care, and he silently watched how she reacted to each story, as if trying to decipher her through the words of others. What Isla didn't know was that Arthur carried a secret, a recent diagnosis buried among test results and silences. The coffee shop and their daily encounters had become his only happy routine. And what Arthur didn't know was that Isla was also battling her own ghosts, a sick mother in another city, mounting debts, and a dream she had shelved out of fear of failure. They never spoke about it, but there was something they had in common, the need to belong somewhere. And in that modest coffee shop, amidst the hum of the espresso machine and the clinking of spoons and glass cups, something began to shift inside them, small, almost imperceptible, like when the cold starts to give way to the first ray of morning sun. And it was on an ordinary day, with no special reason, that Arthur looked at Isla with a different gleam in his eyes and said, "Did you know you can find family in the most unexpected places?" She smiled, not quite understanding what he meant, but in that moment, they both felt it. Something had changed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The months passed with the delicacy of autumn leaves drifting to the ground. The friendship between Isla and Arthur bloomed like those rare plants that survive the cold, steady, despite the world outside. Their daily meetings became rituals. She no longer had to ask for his order. He no longer had to hide his smile when he saw her. Sometimes they said nothing at all, but just being there in the same space was enough to give the day a different rhythm. On a clear-skied Wednesday, Isla arrived at the coffee shop with puffy eyes. Arthur noticed it the moment she served his coffee. The usual smile was missing, and the slight tremble in her hands said more than any words could. When he asked if she was okay, she lied, said it was just tiredness. But as she turned away, a single tear fell to the floor. Arthur didn't press. He simply left a napkin on the counter with a phrase written in pen: "When the water rises, it's good to have an anchor." That night, Isla couldn't sleep. The overdue rent, her mother's medications, the bills, it all felt crushing. But the words on the napkin kept echoing in her mind. Maybe Arthur wasn't just a beloved customer. Maybe he was her anchor. And for the first time in months, she allowed herself to cry, not from despair, but from relief, because somehow she no longer felt alone. The next day, Isla brought a slice of homemade apple pie and handed it to Arthur with a note: "Thank you for holding my storm." He took a bite and closed his eyes. There was something there, in the taste and in the gesture, that reminded him of Sundays with his wife. And in that moment, he decided he needed to tell her. Not everything, but enough. "I have leukemia," he said in a low voice, like someone offering a delicate truth. Isla froze for a second, holding a cup between her fingers. "Recent diagnosis. Treatment starts next month. I haven't told my son yet. He barely picks up the phone." Isla sat down. The world was spinning slowly around them, but there, at that table, time had stopped. She took his hand and replied, "You won't go through this alone." In the following weeks, Isla started going with him to some appointments on her days off. Arthur, even sick, seemed more alive. He joked with the nurses, read aloud in waiting rooms, and insisted on bringing coffee to the medical staff. It was as if he were determined to face death with kindness, without losing his love for life. Isla admired that, and deep down, she was learning from him how to be stronger too. One day, Isla arrived late for work. She couldn't stop thinking about how the coffee shop had been getting busier, how the atmosphere had changed over the past months. Customers now chatted with each other. The walls had notes stuck to them with inspiring phrases. A small notebook was making its way from table to table, where anyone could write something for the next person who came along. It was as if the place had gained a soul, and she knew Arthur was part of that. It was on a gray morning that Isla received the news that her mother had been hospitalized. She needed to travel to care for her. Arthur noticed the tension in her eyes before she said a single word. "Go," he said. "Family comes first. The coffee shop will miss you, but it'll be fine." And it was he who, that week, started leaving little notes for the temporary baristas. "Smile for her. Serve with soul. Every cup is a chance to begin again." 2 weeks later, Isla returned. Her mother was better, but something in her had changed. She was more determined, lighter, even if still tired. She found the coffee shop with flowers on the counter and a sign that read, "Here we serve coffee and hope," and Arthur sitting at his usual table, holding an envelope. "I have a gift," he said. Inside the envelope was a partial ownership contract for the little coffee shop in Isla's name. "It's not much, but it's enough for you to start calling this place yours." She was speechless. She cried, laughed, and ran to hug him tightly. She didn't know what to say, but she knew what she felt. Arthur wasn't just giving her part of a business. He was giving her a new path, a home, a chance, a future. And as the bells on the door jingled with new customers coming in, Isla understood. Sometimes the right people show up in your life at the exact moment everything seems about to fall apart. And in some inexplicable way, they save you. Winter arrived with its usual urgency in London, spreading white across the streets and silencing the city's noise. Inside the coffee shop, warmth came not only from the steaming cups, but from the gestures. Isla was now officially a partner. The name of the place had changed to Arthur and Isla, Cafe and Stories. And the windows displayed donated books, notes left by customers, and a reserved blue armchair. The same armchair where he used to sit every day. Arthur didn't come as often anymore. The treatment required more rest, and the bad days outnumbered the good ones. Still, whenever he could, he showed up. And on those days, all the staff took turns bringing him the coffee of the day, prepared with an extra touch of care. Isla greeted him with the same smile that had started it all, but now there were hidden tears behind it too. She knew, and so did he. On Christmas Eve, Arthur left Isla a letter. He asked her to read it only the next morning. It was a brown envelope, her name written on it in firm handwriting. Inside, there was just one sentence. "Friendship doesn't choose age, color, or time. It only chooses souls that recognize each other." And along with it, a blank page. At the bottom, a handwritten question. "Do you want to keep writing this story?" Arthur passed away on the first Sunday of January, at home, in his sleep, surrounded by books, memories, and peace. The grief was sweet and deep, like a strong coffee on a silent morning. But what he left behind wasn't absence, it was multiplied presence. On the cafe walls, in the conversations he inspired, in the lives he touched. Isla cried, yes, but then she opened the notebook of notes, picked up a blue pen, and wrote the first sentence on a new page. "Today, I decided to be an anchor for anyone feeling adrift." Months later, a new customer began frequenting the cafe, a quiet old man who always sat in the same spot by the window. Isla watched him warmly.